This week, we find out what the Pope will do over the summer. The Vatican celebrates life, and we talk to a renowned art historian about sacred art. Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections for the week of June the 14th. We now have the Pope's summer schedule. There will be no private or special audiences throughout the summer. As well, all papal general audiences will be suspended throughout the month of July. General audiences will resume again on August 7th, and on August 14th, Pope Francis will visit Castel Gandolfo and lead the Angelus from the Apostolic Palace there. Of course, from July 22nd to 29th, the Holy Father will be in Brazil for World Youth Day. So if you're planning to visit the Vatican this summer and you want to see the Pope, better to go in August. Speaking of World Youth Day, the Pontifical Council for the Laity and the World Youth Day Organizing Committee have released information about the catechesis venues for the different language groups attending this summer's event. Visit rio2013.com for more details. Now, among the venues is the Vivo Rio Center in the Guanabara region. The center is sponsored by the USCCB, Salt and Light, and the bishops' conferences from other English-speaking countries around the world. It will be a catechesis site, but it will also be part of the Youth Festival program, and we'll have more details for you as we get closer to World Youth Day. Now, June 15th and 16th, the Vatican will host a weekend full of events to celebrate Evangelium vitae. Cardinal Raymond Burke talks about the event and what it celebrates.
Contraception is the beginning of the anti-life movement, and it certainly will favor an abortion culture, because what it does is it takes the nature of the act of sexual union and violates it in a very significant way by removing the procreative aspect, which is inherent to the union of man and woman, the sexual union, conjugal union. And so, by removing that, it is fundamentally an anti-life act, and the contention is that this act, therefore, still retains all of its goodness because it's a unitive act. But in fact, it's not, because the act itself has been so disrupted and violated that you have two parties. Certainly, they're sexually united, but they're not giving themselves completely and totally to one another, which is the whole meaning of sexual union, because either one or both are eliminating this natural procreativity of the act. The truth of the matter is that many forms of contraception are in fact abortifacient. They destroy human life at its very beginning, and so we may not be talking about all that different a reality.
Now, on this side of the ocean, we learned this week that Quebec City will be receiving an unprecedented honor. To mark the Archdiocese's 350th anniversary, the Vatican is giving the Archdiocese a holy door for its cathedral in Old Quebec. La Presse reported this week that Archbishop Gérard Lacroix made the request for a holy door, knowing it was a long shot. The papal nuncio to Canada reportedly told the Archbishop, "You don't know what you're asking for," when he delivered the news that the Vatican had agreed to the request. Now, there are only 6 designated holy doors in all the world, and all of them are in Europe. Quebec will celebrate its 350th anniversary in 2014, and the door will be installed in time for those celebrations. Finally, CNS caught up with one Catholic writer about the way the Church is portrayed in popular fiction and what to make of it all.
Before it was published, I was sent a copy of the Da Vinci Code, and I had a look at it and recognized in it all the material from that book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, which I'd read several years before and thought was complete rubbish. So I didn't actually read the Da Vinci Code until I was asked to review a book by an American academic called Truth and Fiction in the Da Vinci Code. And his book was very polite and sort of said there wasn't much truth and quite a lot of fiction. But I also noticed that, because I'd written a book about the Templars, the Knights Templar, that everything in the Da Vinci Code about the Knights Templar is complete nonsense. So my respect for Dan Brown as a sort of historical writer, or a writer who sticks to the truth of history, went out of the window. I think what is true is that even as our society becomes more secular, there is a kind of lurking interest in the supernatural. And I think that's why a lot of, horror films and are so successful. And films about demonic possession or exorcism and that sort of thing, which actually most Catholics don't come across much, but obviously do have a fascination for the public. I think you find as a general phenomenon that a lot of the most successful books which deal with religion in any way are anti-Catholic. I think in that sense the devil has all the best tunes, but there's a lot of misconceptions about the Church that originate some from as far back as the Reformation, certainly from the Enlightenment, which you still see just accepted by the general public as being true. And it's really, I think, I regard as one of my missions as a Catholic writer is to try and disabuse the people of their misconceptions.
Did you know Evangelium Vitae is the name of the encyclical written by Pope John Paul II in 1995 that explains the Church's teaching on the dignity of human life? As long as there has been a church, there has been art reflecting the deepest teachings of our faith. Now, we had a chance to talk to Dominican Father Marius Zerafa, a priest and an art historian, as well as a professor at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome, better known as the Angelicum. We spoke to him about the relationship between art and faith and what that means for the new evangelization.
I think it was Oscar Wilde who said art is unnecessary. Unnecessary in the sense that it's not meant to serve a purpose. In actual fact, we know that art has always been the ancilla theologia. Art has always served a religion. In the Council of Trent, that was a program of the Church to make artists give the Christian message. And we know, if we look at Giotto, Giotto is important in the history of art in this exhibition because just as St. Francis turned the mystery of the Incarnation into a nativity crib so that people could understand it, so Giotto brought art to the people so they could understand the Christian message. Okay? We know that in the Council of Trent, one of the purposes of the fathers was to make art serve the message of religion. There's the famous, for years, religion art was separated. I always quote the quotation by Cardinal Ratzinger, who said, the two apologia for Christianity are two. One is the life of the saints. Number two is the art that has grown in the womb of the Church. So art has always been very useful to give the Christian message. Unfortunately, with modern art, we go back from the Settecento onwards, there's very little religious art. There's been a lot of religious sketch produced, but the Church, there has been this sort of divorce between real artists and Christianity. And I think it's a great thing that the Church is calling back the artists, and now it's doing it in an official way by taking part in the Venice Biennale, which is a very important event. I remember the Church taking part in an international exhibition in Belgium. That was a lot years back when there was a Vatican pavilion. And it's interesting that at the Vatican itself, there's a section of modern art. So that shows that the Church is trying to call back the artists, because art is a very useful component of the Christian message.
Time to see what's been keeping the Pope busy this week. Pope Francis accepted the credentials of the Mexican ambassador to the Holy See and met with Italian President Giorgio Napolitano. It was the first official meeting between the two men. Pope Francis recalled the Edict of Milan, saying it was the first affirmation of religious freedom, but today, religious freedom is more often affirmed than realized, and it is everyone's duty to defend such rights. President Napolitano said he brought the affection of the Italian people and spoke of the challenges and expressed his best wishes for the Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI. Another first for Pope Francis, he had a special audience with the students of Jesuit-run schools in Italy and Albania. When the Holy Father arrived, he was greeted by a warm round of applause, and when he finally took his seat and picked up the text of the talk he was supposed to give, he surprised the group with this.
Cari ragazzi,
Dear boys and girls, young people, I prepared this to share with you, but it's 5 pages and a bit boring. Let's do one thing.
I
will do a short summary, and then I will give you this text, and then I will give this text to the provincial, also to Father Lombardi, so you can all have a copy written. Then, some of you can have a chance to ask questions, and we can have a small dialogue. Do you like this idea or not? Yes? Let's do it this way.
Now, the children were not expecting to be able to ask questions, but they had no trouble finding some to ask.
I'm Caterina De Marquis from the Leo XIII Institute. And I was wondering why you renounced all the riches of being Pope, like a luxurious apartment or a big car. Instead, you decided to live in a small apartment nearby, and you took the bus with the bishops. Why did you renounce those riches?
I think that it's not an issue of riches. For me, it's a problem of personality, really. I need to live with people.
If
I lived alone, maybe a little isolated, it wouldn't do me good. A professor asked me the same question. Why don't you go live there? And I answered, listen, professor, for psychiatric reasons. It's my personality. Also, that apartment up there isn't that luxurious. Don't worry about that. But I can't live alone. And also, our day and age speaks to us of so much poverty in the world. This is a scandal. The poverty in this world is a scandal. In a world where we have so much wealth, so much resources to feed everyone, it's not comprehensible that there are still so many children going hungry, children with no education, so many poor people. The poverty we see today is a cry. It's a cry, and we all have to think about how we can become a little more poor. We all have to do this. How can I become a little more poor and resemble Jesus a little more? He was a poor teacher. This is the thing. But it's not an issue of a virtue of mind. It's just I can't live alone. And also about the car and everything else is about not having so many things, becoming a little more poor. That's what's it.
tante cose e diventare un po' più povero. È quello.
Sono Francesco Bassani dell'Istituto Leone XIII.
I'm Francesco Bassani from the Institute of Leo XIII. I'm a boy who, as I wrote in my letter to you, I'm a boy who wrote in that letter that I'm trying to believe. Yes, I'm trying to be faithful. But I have some difficulties. Sometimes I have doubts, and I think this is absolutely normal at my age. And given that you are the Pope who, I think, will be in my heart the most because I'm meeting you in my adolescent years, I want to ask you if you had any words to help me in this growth and to support all young people like me.
Sostenermi in questa crescita e sostenere tutti i ragazzi come me.
Ma camminare
Walking
è un'arte.
Walking is an art,
Perché se sempre camminiamo in
because if
fretta,
we always walk in
ci
haste,
stanchiamo
we get
e
tired
non possiamo arrivare alla
and we
fine.
can't make it to the end of the road.
Invece se ci fermiamo e non camminiamo,
Instead, if we stop and don't walk,
neppure arriviamo alla fine.
we also don't arrive at our
Camminare è
goal.
proprio l'arte
Walking is
di
precisely the art
guardare
of looking
l'orizzonte
at the
e
horizon,
pensare
thinking,
dove
where
io
do I
voglio
want to go?
andare, ma anche
but also
sopportare
enduring
la stanchezza
but also
del
enduring the
cammino.
tiredness that comes
Tante
with
volte
traveling.
il cammino è difficile, non è
And
facile.
many times
Io
the
voglio
road can be
restare
difficult.
fedele a questo
It's not
cammino, ma non
easy.
è facile,
I want to
senti,
stay
c'è
faithful to
buio,
this path, but it's not easy.
ci sono giornate di buio,
Look, there is darkness. There are days of
giornate di
darkness,
fallimento,
even days of failure, even days when
alcune
I
giornate
fall.
di caduta. Uno cade, ma pensate sempre questo.
One can fall,
Non
but
avere
always remember
paura,
this. Do not be afraid of failures.
non avere paura
Do not be
delle
afraid
cadute.
of falling.
Nell'arte di
In the art of
camminare,
walking,
quello che
what is
importa
important
non è
is not
di non
avoiding
cadere,
falls,
ma di non
but to
rimanere
not stay
caduti.
down.
Alzarsi presto,
Getting up
subito,
fast and
e
continuing
continuare
the
a
journey.
andare. E questo è bello.
This is beautiful.
Questo è lavorare
This
tutti i
is something to
giorni.
work on every day.
Questo è camminare,
This is what it means to walk in a
umanamente.
human way.
ma anche
But also,
è brutto camminare
it's
da
not
solo.
nice to walk alone.
Brutto e noioso.
It's not nice and it's boring.
Camminare in
Walking in
comunità, con gli
community,
amici,
with friends,
con quelli che
with those who
vogliono
care for
bene.
us.
E quello ci
That
aiuta,
helps us
ci aiuta
to
a
arrive at our
arrivare
destination,
proprio alla fine
where we want to
alla
go,
quale noi
where we have
dobbiamo
to go.
arrivare. Io non
I don't
so
know
se
if
ho
I answered your
risposto,
question.
La tua domanda.
Yes?
Stai?
Do not be afraid of the journey.
No, non avrei paura al cammino? Grazie. È quello.
Of course, on Wednesday, Pope Francis held his general audience. During his catechesis, he turned to the Second Vatican Council and focused on the term people of God. And he was scheduled to meet with the Archbishop of Canterbury on Friday. It would be the first meeting with the Anglican leader. Time to find out who has a new job and who's going where with a look at this week's nominations and resignations. Archbishop Miroslav Adamczyk was ordained an archbishop and elevated to the rank of nuncio a little while back. This week we learned he will be the papal nuncio to Liberia and Gambia. The Armenian Catholic faithful in Western Europe have an apostolic visitor. Bishop Jean Théroux of Sainte-Croix de Paris of the Armenians takes on this new role. And in South Africa, Father Jeremiah Masela becomes Bishop of Polokwane. In the UK, Bishop Alan Stephen Hopes of Westminster becomes Bishop of East Anglia. Now, Bishop Hopes was ordained an Anglican priest in 1968. He was received into the Catholic Church in 1992 and ordained a Catholic priest in 1995. Finally, it's not a papal appointment, but it is significant. The Venerable English College in Rome has a new rector. Monsignor Philip Whitmore will become the new rector. Monsignor Whitmore is a familiar face. He's often seen at the papal general audiences reading the English summary of the Pope's catechesis. He has been working in the Holy See's Secretariat of State. Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org, and by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. And that's it for Vatican Connections this week. Join us next time as we turn our gaze southward to explore South America and look at how that continent shaped our Pope and how that continent feels about having one of their own in the See of Peter. Of course, we'll also bring you full updates on World Youth Day preparations. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at VatiConnections, check out our Salt and Light blog for papal texts, or visit worldyouthDayCentral.org. For everyone here, thanks for watching and see you next time.